What's going on, everybody? This is Marcus. Before I get started, I want to thank you guys so much for your support. It means everything to me, and you guys mean so much to me. I love you all. For those who are new to my channel, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this video, and make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications whenever I drop a video, and we're gonna always keep this thing rolling. So, let's talk about Kenobi Episode 5, part of the Star Wars franchise. I'm actually enjoying this series really well so far because so far, like the entire episodes has just been the main focus about Vader. And Vader has been just slaughtering everybody. Like, oh my gosh, especially from the second episode and the first episode where he was basically slaying the village. It was just crazy. So you basically get to see what Vader is capable of ever since he donned the armor after Revenge of the Sith. And so, and on top of that, with episode 5, we get to see the fight scenes between Vader and Reva, and it was incredible. So first of all, we're going to do a review for episode 5. So I'm going to break down what I've seen and learned from episode 5 and getting ready to do the Easter egg breakdown. So we're going to do that second. So I got Eric Voss from New Rockstar, so we're going to break that down shortly. But episode 5 is incredible, and the fight scenes, oh my gosh, the fight scenes with Reva and Vader is extraordinary because we basically get to see what Vader is like in full armor. And even though it's a lot slower than usual, because usually armor will basically be a lot more slower, but he's still dangerous too, because without the armor, he's fast and agile. But with the armor, he's a little bit slower, but he's still dangerous at the same time. But we actually get to see him using the Force like abruptly, because when he was stopping the ship that was taking off in the air, he basically used the entire Force to bring the ship down. And then there was a second unit of the ship that actually went away just in time. So, but still, Vader's a very dangerous human being. So you can pretty much see why Vader is one of the most top villains or most iconic villains of all time, basically. So yeah, and then on top of that, you know, especially when he fought Kenobi for the first time, especially between episode 3 as well, we pretty much get to see his first fight and how he almost basically burned Kenobi as well. So, and yeah, Kenobi is definitely starting to pretty much try to at least stay in his lane as well. So yeah, on top of that, he's trying to rescue Layla, who was kidnapped by the third sister Reva, of course, but who was also known as the Grand Inquisitor when she supposedly killed the first OG Grand Inquisitor. But he survived the ordeal, and well, after when Vader stabbed her right into the stomach, that was when he revealed himself that he was alive the entire time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually getting really intense now. So I'm curious to see where episode 6 is going to go, because they can go so much with it. And I believe that where they're going to go to is going to be so epic as well. So the final scene, which is what I think is going to take place, is going to be in Tatooine, because we see that there was a locklet that Reva found on the ground, which we hear the voice of Bail Organa, who's actually the adoptive father of Layla. And we also know too that Layla knows a lot about Vader's past, and then not to mention the fact that she was also a youngling when she was there during Order 66, where Anakin came and of course he killed all of the younglings who were practicing Jedi work and kill all the kids. Of course, that seems particularly graphic. So, which actually was interesting, because they did mention by the beginning of the episode that the episode itself was going to contain a lot of graphic things that most people may not be able to see. And obviously, they were probably talking about the murder of kids, basically. So, but yeah, that's what Order 66 was, basically, unfortunately, which is revealed in Revenge of the Sith, actually. 6 Revenge of the Sith. But basically, like we just said, Reva knows a lot about Vader's past, but also since kidnapping Layla herself, she also will more than likely find out that Layla is not only the adopted daughter of Bail Organa, but she's also the actual daughter of Darth Vader herself, because see, Vader at this particular time didn't even know that his kids actually survived. And so when Padme apparently was killed, she actually gave birth to Luke and Layla, who were their kids. But he didn't even know that his kids were actually alive, because he thought that he killed Padme because of his fit of anger, which of course was a lie by Palpatine, of course. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see where they're going to go with episode 6, because I'm definitely curious to see what's going to happen with that too. So I've enjoyed it. It's very incredible, and it's definitely worth watching. So it's on Disney Plus. You guys can check it out. Like, I'm doing my reviews about it, and there's other people who've done reviews episode 5, and they have their opinions about it. But personally, I loved it, and I think I speak for everybody else. This is definitely the focus on Vader and how dangerous he is, but we'll get to see his past pretty much in the same time as well. So we'll get to see him at least interact with Kenobi a lot more, which is going to take place in their initial original trilogy as well. So, but yeah, let's talk about the Easter egg breakdown. So we're gonna do that real quickly. So with Eric Voss right here, without further ado, let's get right into it. And
welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 5, which finally reunites Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen in pre-Attack of the Clones flashbacks, which is really great until you realize this is also the face who kills even younglings.
yeah,
As always, there were so many subtle visual details, deeper layers of meaning, so we gotta break down this episode shot by shot for everything that you might have missed. And a reminder that the best way to support New Rockstars is to get our Empire's Most Wanted shirt over at newrockstarsmerch.com. Getting one of these,
that's a cool shirt.
Of
course, I got this one too, The Last Jedi, so
that's pretty cool. Opens back on Coruscant sometime before Attack of the Clones. We know that because Anakin still has the blue lightsaber hilt that he used before it was busted in Geonosis' factory in
pre-Attack of the Clones because of his hairstyle too.
And arm still intact. Also, this is the same exact terrace of the Jedi Temple where we opened episode 1 of the series, where the first Jedi youngling we saw, our suspicions confirmed this episode, Reva, the third sister. In this case, the shot of the city pulling back from the green hedges is in daytime, contrasting the nighttime of the previous shot, so this flashback is more of a pleasant memory, at least at first, before the darkness set in. The shot from Anakin's perspective has been angled a bit so that different high-rises are in frame, now including this one on the far right, 500 Republica, the Senate residence building where, at this point in history, Padme would be living as a young senator from Naboo. When we catch up with Anakin and Obi-Wan and Attack the Clones, he says he hasn't spoken to Padme since Phantom Menace. So, this now tells us that he spent all those years longing for his royal dream girl in her tower. The shot echoes his son Luke's future longing as he gazed out upon another horizon. These Skywalker boys, they just love too long.
Like father, like son.
I was beginning to think you weren't coming. Master, good. Then maybe I stand more of a chance this time.
A meaningful exchange. Obi-Wan says that since Anakin could not sense his arrival, late or otherwise, Kenobi's intuition might be more sharply attuned today than his Padawan's is. It also tells us that Anakin might have bested the old man in their more recent sparring sessions. Ewan and Hayden have been de-aged, but just a little bit to remove some wrinkles on their faces, and in Hayden's face to tighten up his chin a little bit. You can see that artificiality specifically on Hayden's smirk. And that's because mouths, smiles, and talking are just always the hardest for animators who render to be photorealistic. But really, it was just awesome to see these two together again, and I'm glad that they just let the actors act. Obi-Wan circles Anakin, carrying his lightsaber in one hand, Anakin with two hands, inverting the defensive posture Obi-Wan had to take while fighting Vader in episode 3. Vader, in that duel, only using one hand. This memory echoes in the mind of Darth Vader as he's on his Star Destroyer, the Devastator. This flashback is interwoven throughout the episode, structuring it as a present lesson that both men are still learning from and having a dialogue with. Vader tells the third sister,
Grand Inquisitor.
Reva hesitates to kneel in front of Vader because this triggers her back to that moment Anakin towered over her when she was a youngling during Order 66. Rogan's freighter returns to Jabin, and now we see more of its muddy surface, trails of runoff trickling down into sediment pools. Later, the Grand Inquisitor tells Reva that they are leaving her where they found her, in the gutter. And this sinkhole base is literally a muddy runoff gutter. When they land, Leia rushes over to Tala, who's chatting with Corrin and his mother. You remember them? They were the refugees Haja helped escape Daiyu in episode 2. Now, the character Corrin is actually included among the credits of this episode. Actor Indy DeRoche, implying that he might be a bit more significant. He could be, or at least be based on, Legends character Corrin Horn, biological son of Jedi Valen Halcyon, whose name actually appears on the wall of this same base and back in the Mapuzo safe house of episode 3. According to the Legends continuity, Corrin Horn was born in 18BBY, which would make this kid the right age. And in those stories, Corrin would go on to be one of Luke Skywalker's first students after the Battle of Endor. Now, these expanded universe stories were classified as no longer canon when Disney took over the franchise in 2015, but many of these stories are still beloved by many folks at Lucasfilm, thus all these Legends details making their way into these Disney Plus shows.
That makes sense.
And in Boba Fett, The Witch of Dathomir, eventually all the best stuff from the EU, I think, is just going to be official Star Wars canon anyway.
Yeah, might as well make it canon at this point.
Now wanted by the Empire. Meanwhile, we see a droid with an astromech head and then thick hips.
No, not genuine.
Rick might have made a pair, and I am not complaining. There is another astromech droid that rolls around this base.
Oh my gosh.
R2-D2. R2 was on Alderaan for all of this. Obi-Wan sees the wall that is covered in Jedi markings, all in Oramesh. The Jedi Order sigil in the center, of course, but in the top left, there is no death, a line from the poem of the Jedi Order, in which the verse is, there is no death, there is only the Force. Also across the top, big letters, be with you. Beneath it, smaller, may the Force be with you. It seems like people just write that everywhere. To the right of those, directly above the sigil, the name Jin Altis. That's named the Altesian Jedi purge survivor from the Legends books like Children of the Force. His name was also on the wall of the Mapuzo safe house. In the middle left of screen, large letters, Corwin Shelby. That's another Legends character, actually from the 1993 role-playing game, a character who joined the Jedi Order after the Purge. To the right of that, Tiberius, which could be Tiberius Anderlock, who's from the expansion pack to the game from 2003, Star Wars Galaxy's Empire Divided. To the right of that, beneath the sigil, the phrase, the light fades, but it's never forgotten, presumably another message from Quinlan Voss. Above that, to the lower right of the sigil,
I need to play that game, Star Wars Galaxies, and I never played it. If you guys played it, let me know down in the comments.
Something falls. Then the bottom middle, the name Roganda Ismarin, another Jedi.
I played every Star Wars games except for Galaxy, so.
Jedi survivor of the Purge, also from the Children of the
And again, if you guys have played it, let me know.
The words only strength. There are also a few initials.
These are good labels, though.
In the middle, there's MF, which has got to be Mace Windu. Who else might just say motherfucker? And then to the upper right, the words only strength is EC.
Something like Samuel Jackson would say, though, considering he played Mason Windu.
That is filled with lightsabers. Remember, carrying around a lightsaber at this point is pretty much a death sentence for any Jedi who's trying to hide in society, so it makes sense that they would just give them up like 3D glasses outside the movie. It makes a bit less sense no one thought to grab one of these to fight off the invading stormtroopers, but oh well. As for which Jedi these lightsabers belong to, probably no one in particular. I was thinking that long, thin one on the far left looks like Maul's, or maybe one modded to be a single-bladed lightsaber, but it's not exact. The fourth one from the left has a long...
I'm gonna talk about Darth Maul after the Easter egg breakdown.
Remember, these would not be any of the lightsabers of the Jedi the Empire caught or killed. Those were either burned outside of the temple or put on display in the Fortress of Mystorious. I checked against Quinlan Voss's lightsaber, Cal Kestis' lightsaber, Caleb Doom's lightsaber, but by the way, that wouldn't make sense because Kanan kept his and Rebels. Some are saying some of these lightsabers look like the tapered hilts of Adi Gallia's lightsaber or Barriss Offee's lightsaber, but put any of these side by side and they are clearly not matches. I really just think these are all spare, anonymous lightsabers. They've been putting familiar ones in there, but let me know if you recognize it. I think the one interesting detail about this is that Obi-Wan picks up the one lightsaber with the simplest design. Clearly the oldest of these, most scuffed up. That's a saber of the Carpenter. I think it's an indicator that there was someone far older than Obi-Wan who made it through this path. Maybe the Master, who is currently smuggling Grogu to safety. Evil Lola shuts the hangar doors and Obi-Wan tells them Vader is on his way.
It's no power. It's Vader. He'll attack next. Those are the patience for siege.
And we flash back from Obi-Wan to the memory, proving that this is a memory shared between both Vader and Obi-Wan. The Force is bringing them together to dwell on this particular moment. Here, Obi-Wan instructs,
The Jedi's goal is to defend life, not take it. Mercy doesn't defeat an enemy, Master.
Yes, Anakin does not think in terms of the sanctity of life, only his present memory and how best to defeat them, which is what makes him so corruptible. The Devastator releases two transports. We get this great shot of the Devastator as its dagger-shaped hull pierces the planet of Jabim in the background like a knife cutting into a tomato. One of the Jabim stowaways is actually a cameo by Christina Ariel, host of the Star Wars High Republic show. It's
nice. I like her. She's cool.
To make cameos. Like, what do I gotta do?
I
I love how we get this little flashback flash of a Trandoshan family touching their heads together. Which frankly, every other time we see Trandoshans are kind of assholes. Over by the Bacta tank where Obi-Wan spent last episode healing, he reviews Bail Organa's hollow message.
I know he said no communication, but your silence. Learn of the children. I don't hear from you soon. I'll head to Tatooine. Owen will need help with the boy.
It's Bail Organa.
You're safe.
Jeez, come on, Bail. Speaking of bit of code, who knows who's gonna find this? The guy really needs to delegate this stuff to a Fulcrum agent. Get Ahsoka on the line, please. Tala tells him about
That'd be cool to see
her
Ahsoka
next
showing
chapter
up, though.
following orders on Garel, slaughtering 4 families, 14 Force-sensitive people,
Aw,
6
Taya,
of them
man.
children. Garel is actually an Outer Rim planet in the Lothal sector that shows up a few times in Rebels. Tala reveals a series of notches inside her blaster holster, one for every Force-sensitive she gets through to safety. And if you count those notches, there are definitely more than 14. I counted like 16 or 17, showing that for Tala, no amount of saved Force-sensitives will be enough for her. As they gear up for battle, Roken carries a bowcaster with a similar curved bow and knob ends as the bowcaster that Chewie carries. Obi-Wan decides to try to negotiate with Reva and calls out the fact that she knew that Vader was Anakin, something that should have been private information, and he realizes...
In 1966, you were a youngling. That's how you knew you saw him.
And we flash back to that night. Background shows that young Reva and her friends are really at the far end of that raised walkway, the direction they were running in at the end of that scene in episode 1. Now we learn that in those doorways on the other end was Anakin cutting them off. One of those kids who gets struck down is actually the same actor who played the youngling in the Amber Stasis in the Fortress last episode, confirming that that was one of Reva's friends, and she has to see his young corpse every day. Reva says,
I played good. Hid with the bodies. Felt them go cold.
a brief shot shows her
Man,
lying on
that's-
the ground, her training helmet
that's
is so
sad.
wobbly. It's just heartbreaking to see all of this. We
Yeah,
see
it
far
is.
more of the slaughter here than the Mr. Anakin kid in Revenge of the Sith. Who, by the way, I just learned from an interview with that actor now as a young man. He said that as a kid he stepped back in fear because Hayden Christensen said "boo" when they shot that scene. Isn't that sweet? Now, I'm not
That's
a skincare
funny.
aficionado, but
That's
I prefer
pretty
my face
fun.
to not look like I've been lost in the dunes of Tatooine. 70% off on your 30-day
Man.
trial. But she doesn't want his help and gives the Blastors the Qui-Gon treatment, leading to a shootout where, when you notice, stormtroopers are taken down with a single blaster hit, but it takes Obi-Wan 3 whacks of his lightsaber to take down the more heavily armored Purge trooper. Clearly people worked on the show, played Jedi Fallen Order, and I appreciate that.
Love that game. Jedi Fallen Order. I'm definitely gonna check out Galaxies too, so I gotta play that, so.
Stormtrooper up to the ceiling, throws another one 20 feet backward, but Tala and Nedby get hit, and Nedby spends his
Yeah,
final moments
that
shielding
broke me when Tala
It's
got
so sad.
killed.
It gives her just enough time to activate a thermal detonator and shoot the
Yeah.
controls on the door so Obi-Wan's on the other side.
May the Force be with you.
Now, while of course John Williams gets a lot of praise for his music, as he should,
I love John Williams. His music is so good.
You can hear the violin music so heartbreaking, reminding us a lot of the violins that we heard in Loki. And of course, the
Yeah, so similar to Loki too, especially with the violin.
Vader, meanwhile, flashes back again to their sparring session.
There's no one here, Master. Admit you are beaten. It's over.
And because it's a shared memory, Obi-Wan answers to it by saying it's over, as if he is talking to the memory, responding in a kind of dialogue with the memory. And you probably got how back in that memory, Anakin was hacking repeatedly at Obi-Wan's lightsaber.
He didn't think it was over
Now,
then,
as Master
up
Luke
until now.
and Luke hacking at Vader's lightsaber while Vader was kneeling in the same position, Return of the Jedi. Obi-Wan hands over his weapons to Haja.
You want to tell me how you found a weapon?
There are other ways to fight him.
Yes, this echoes what he later tells Han Solo in A New Hope as the Death Star beams into Falcon.
You can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting.
So Obi-Wan surrenders to Reva, and the shot frames the two of them so that the heavy gun is pointed directly from Reva to Obi-Wan's head. He says,
You're not bringing him to me. I'm bringing him to you.
he offers for them to end it together. Reva says, Obi-Wan knows in this moment the memory his thoughts are currently dwelling upon is being shared by Vader. So he assumes that since his thoughts are being consumed by Vader, Vader's thoughts are consumed by Obi-Wan. And from here we jump back again to them sparring.
There. Your weapon's gone. It's over.
Your need for victory, Anakin, blinds you.
Yeah, some of the instrumentation there definitely evoked John Williams' Battle of the Heroes, the staccato horns playing under Anakin's opening charge during their duel on Mustafar.
And that's epic too.
You also notice Anakin does that awesome behind-the-back saber twirl flourish that he uses on Geonosis in Attack of the Clones and while dueling Obi-Wan on Mustafar. Lola tries to attack Leia, or just like gets
that back of the twirl is actually pretty good too. So that's my favorite move too, like the back.
Of course, restraining bolts are recurring Star Wars tech used to deactivate or control droids. Luke had to remove a restraining bolt from R2 in A New Hope, but because Leia chooses not to smash Lola, she's able to use Lola's light to locate the correct cable. The transport takes off, but Vader drags it back down to the ground, a terrifying amount of strength.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Chronologically, the most recent was Ahsoka trying to keep Maul from escaping in the final episode of Clone Wars before letting him go. Vader tears open the hull, and notice how when we cut to the inside of the ship, see it's empty, these bulkheads all have seats on them. Had people actually been on this ship, sitting in these seats, they would have gone flying. Vader did not care. But as we saw in the beginning of this episode, and now in Vader's entrance to this hangar, there are two freighters. So the refugees wisely fake out Vader with an empty one. Still, if you think about it, someone did have to pilot this. I assume it was that Kirk, the astromech. R.I.P. As Vader watches the real freighter escape, he returns to his memory where Obi-Wan force snatches the lightsaber from his hand.
You're a great warrior, Anakin. But you'll need to prove yourself as your undoing until you overcome the Padawan.
Very interesting counterpoint to the famous exchange in A New Hope.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
So, as Vader reflects back on his memory, he accepts that he still has not learned his old master's fuller lesson about his need to prove himself. He's still the learner in that regard, but he has taken away some lessons when it comes to staying a step ahead of his opponent, because at this point, it would seem like the episode would be over, but Reva sneak attack. This episode was actually co-written by Andrew Stanton, director of Pixar films like Finding Nemo.
Andrew Stanton's good.
One thing that filmmaker is really good at is making heroes pay up right when you think the story is over. Like, they can't just learn the lesson mentally, they have to actively prove it in some physical way. For example, even after Marlin finds Nemo, the father has to let his son and Dory tell all the other fish stuck in the net to just keep swimming, risking losing his son again. And then Wally, even after they return the planet,
lessons learned.
Wally,
Never stop learning.
to show an act of true love the way Wally did for her when she was cold and soulless.
Wally.
And now for Darth Vader, he must prove he was not blinded by a threat from behind as he was before. So this time, he spins around and stops the attack. Actually, at first, he only uses the Force to repel Reva, as if she is not even worthy of a lightsaber duel. And in fact, you'll notice in this duel, he never draws his own blade. He only uses her half. After she ignites that second side of her saber, actually nearly sears his mask. He slows down the helicopter spin, he snatches it, stabs it in half, tosses the other one to Reva, says, alright, let's do it. As they duel, I love it. Vader hurls a lit blade at her, which she deflects, but Vader uses that one move he learned from his sparring session with Obi-Wan, and force snatches the blade to force her to yield. And now Reva is back in that knelt posture, taking her back to her lower position as Vader towered over her when he attacked her during Order 66. The editing even syncs these two moments, the intercutting making it look like younger Reva is reacting to older Vader, and older Reva is reacting to younger Anakin. And this is specifically synced when he impales her in the exact same spot.
That was a good synchronization, I'll say that. So
whatever cybernetic implants that she got patched with before are now being seared now as opposed to any vital organs. And he says,
Did you really believe I did not see it, youngling?
and by it, Vader is referring to her hidden grudge against him. Reva assumed Vader didn't remember her, but he totally does. He remembers all the way.
Called her youngling.
The Inquisitors are all fueled by anger and by vengeance and rage, waiting to take a swing at the big dog. It's not loyalty that keeps them in check. It is fear and vengeance. The Grand Inquisitor struts in alive and well.
Revenge does wonders for the will to live, don't you think?
He's right. Revenge certainly kept Maul fueled with the will to live after receiving far worse wounds. Also,
and I'm gonna get to Darth Maul in a second, so.
Revenge and having some spare guts to lose. Actually, Rupert Friend hinted at this on Jimmy Kimmel.
And then you got stabbed, your character got stabbed.
Yeah.
Through the stomach. One of the stomachs.
Yes.
Okay. Because your character has two stomachs, like a hippo or something.
Half a cow, yeah.
They leave her behind in this gutter, and Reva regains her split lightsaber and finds Obi-Wan's holodisc with Bail Organa's message.
Yeah, he's a good actor to portray the Grand Inquisitor, so.
Now the message is damaged, so Reva probably can't see this coming from Bail Organa unless she recognizes his voice. But in this moment, she remembers talking to Owen in episode 1 and is now putting together that Obi-Wan was on Tatooine, who's there protecting the boy who lives under Owen's roof.
Luke Skywalker.
So likely at this point that she knows that the boy is Vader's son specifically. Like, she didn't know Leia was Vader's daughter, but she knows this boy is important to Obi-Wan, and therefore she now has a way that she can get back to Vader. Obi-Wan assumed this episode that Vader would be so blinded by him that he'd miss the threat from Reva, but Vader saw it coming. Obi-Wan, meanwhile, was so blinded by Vader that he now missed the loose end of his closeness with Reva, exposing his original sacred mission to protect Luke. He senses it, but only too late.
Something's wrong.
Yes, echoing Obi-Wan, sensing the destruction of Alderaan in A New Hope.
A great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror. Suddenly the silence.
And these final images take us back to where this series started, the Lars homestead on Tatooine. And we see it from the same exact hiding spot where Obi-Wan all the time would spy on it. And the final shot lowers on Luke Skywalker sleeping peacefully in his bed before we cut to black. But what I love about all this is the context of Obi-Wan even visualizing this imagery. Obi-Wan knows that his thoughts are linked with Vader. Obi-Wan can peer into Vader's present mind. Vader can peer into his. So now by even thinking about Luke on the farm, Obi-Wan is risking seeing Vader on these same thoughts and exposing Luke to danger. The cut to black even feels like Obi-Wan desperately hanging up on this conference call. Now, canonically, Vader is not supposed to know that Luke is on Tatooine. Like, he's not even supposed to know that he has a son or a daughter. Palpatine told him that Padme died in childbirth and lost the kid. And there was an amazing moment in the comic Darth Vader number 6 in 2016 where, after the Battle of Yavin, Boba Fett informs Vader that a rebel pilot named Skywalker fired the kill shot that destroyed the Death Star. And only then does Vader realize, oh, I have no son, and angrily smashes the glass of his observation deck. And that is years from now, obviously. So unless this series wants to retcon that moment, I really hope they don't, because it was awesome. It's just unlikely that this finale episode will show Vader discovering Luke on Tatooine, but Reva can certainly know and duel Obi-Wan as she attacks the Lars homestead. Hopefully our man Obi-Wan will get some backup by a babysitter Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn with his very particular set of skills to turn Reva into a redemptive character. My hope is that she becomes a great Jedi, the way I classify Qui-Gon Jinn.
That'd be awesome.
Episode 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I could definitely see Reva being a redemptive character at first because, like, at first she was so hardcore. So you could pretty much tell that she had, like, a lot of vindictiveness. But after the events of episode 5, I can definitely see her character turning. And so the final battle will probably take place on Tatooine. And if she's going to come to either a Kenobi, yeah, I can definitely see her being a great Jedi for sure. So, because initially, when she had a conversation with Owen, I believe that this time, instead of her hunting down the Jedi, she's going to definitely be a part of the Jedi as well, because that's going to be pretty cool. Because consider the fact that when she was a youngling, she was good initially, but she ended up hating the Jedi because it's pretty much what the Inquisitors are all about. They're like former Jedis in training that basically have like vindictiveness and bitterness in their heart and their hatred too. So, but it's going to be interesting to say the least where it's going to be cool, where they're actually going to go with this. But like I said, this will definitely be a great redemptive character for Reva as well. So, and now going to Darth Maul. Okay, so I know this is a bit of a stretch, but considering the fact what the Grand Inquisitor actually said about how revenge can definitely work wonders, it definitely helps you with the will to live. And if he survived his ordeal, and Darth Maul survived his ordeal also at the Phantom Menace and in the Clone Wars saga, I think, and again, this is definitely a bit of a stretch, and I know they've actually debunked this, but if by far we see in the end credits, if we actually see Darth Maul showing up somehow, that's going to be epic. And I'm definitely be excited to see that too, because Darth Maul is one of my favorite villains as well. So, and again, it's a bit of a stretch, but I think if we saw Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett and also seeing the Inquisitors here on Kenobi, I wouldn't put it past it if we're actually going to see Darth Maul. And considering the fact they wanted to debunk it, to not let fans link everything as far as like what the reveals are like, I think they can lean in towards that. But it'll be interesting. And I'm only just saying this. And you guys, let me know what you guys think too. So, and again, I love different opinions. So let me know what you guys think. But again, I'm just calling it like it is, and if it does happen, I'll definitely say I called it. But if it doesn't, I'm cool with it too, because again, this is definitely focusing on Darth Vader and his past and Kenobi's past as well, and then we have Luke and Layla as well. So they're definitely going to have more focus on those characters for sure. So, but again, like I said, I'm not gonna put it past him. So, but besides the point, I definitely enjoy episode 5. I cannot wait to see episode 6 next Wednesday. So it's going to be the final episode. Where they go from here, we'll find out for sure. So, but man, love Star Wars. I'm definitely going to play Star Wars Galaxy because that's one game I never had a chance to play. So I definitely want to get a chance to play that as well. So I'll definitely make sure I get that game and play it as well. So, but let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. I love you guys so much. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this video, and share my video. I love you guys so much. Thank you for everything. I'll catch you guys in the next one. May the Force be with you guys.